and this may be sort of a customized 0x relayer. But for more product-specific stuff, right now, I mean, Veil only launched on mainnet a week ago, so we are very, very early. But right now, you can trade sort of leveraged cryptocurrency derivatives on Veil. So the 5x leverage rep markets have been moved over the last week. We also have a market that lets you trade on what the best picture winner is going to be at the Academy Awards. And then we have other things like Ethereum hash rate and gas price derivatives. So great for like relayers or miners that want to hedge the gas price or the hash rate. We have a market on the Super Bowl. So I think Augur is a really exciting protocol in that it provides this flexible framework for designing and representing and settling markets of any kind. And it's really open to, whatever, like your imagination to come up with new products and markets people want to trade in. And we, early on are sort of having a curated list of those markets with sort of a shared like trading platform built on top of it. Before jumping into like specific stuff, does anyone have questions about what Veil is at a high level? Also, you can check out like our product on mainnet. It's just app.veil.co, or veil.co is like our landing page. But yeah, does anyone have questions initially before we jump into more of the implementation stuff? Going once, going twice. Great, okay. Graham, do you want to talk about sort of how, like what the 0x, okay, thank you. About what the 0x sort of relayer model is, and then how Veil differs from maybe other like ERC20 relayers.
So I guess where I'll start is by giving a brief overview of I don't know how familiar the audience is with 0x relayers at a high level, but there are two schools of thought with 0x, and I think the 0x treatment is trying to bring them more together. But basically, you can either have your users post orders and then take orders from other users directly, which allows you to basically take liquidity off of the order book by sending an Ethereum transaction from your laptop as a user. And we opted not to use that. That's what sort of Radar Relay uses. If you use 0x Instant, that's also, you're sending an Ethereum transaction from your MetaMask or from Coinbase Wallet or whatever, and actually filling that order yourself. Veil uses the matching model, which is more akin to Paradex, where two users will create an order where Veil is the taker on the order. And then our server actually goes and executes those orders using a 0x method called batch, fill, or kill. And when those orders are filled, your balances update. And we only fill orders that basically make sense to match each other. But we have we basically decide ultimately which orders get filled and which ones don't. And so given that's like a high level, like it's good to know that going in, because we are basically deciding, we have an order book and we are deciding which orders to fill in the order book. And it also allows users to only create orders by just signing a message instead of actually sending a transaction and paying the gas. But the other thing to realize,
cancellation.
Yeah, I think it's nice because you can cancel. You can do soft cancels where you just tell us basically an order is canceled and we will not fill it anymore. And that allows you to not pay gas to cancel orders, which you sometimes do have to do if you're using an open order book, because you have to tell the contract not to fill the orders. So the other thing to know, and this I hope feel free to send a message at any point if this gets very confusing, because I might go down on a rabbit hole that I don't need to go down on. But
I'll keep you honest.
yeah, the tricky thing with Augur is that so the way Augur markets are built is that they have a number of different outcomes, and each of those outcomes is represented by an ERC20 token. So different people can have different balances in each outcome, and that's how their position is represented, which is great because it actually makes it so that trading Augur positions is sort of akin to trading actual ERC20 tokens on a normal relayer, on a normal DEX.
Provide an example.
So the simplest example is like we have this market, like will the cryptocurrency Grin be listed on CoinMarketCap by March 16th? That's so that's a market that is a binary market. It's going to pay out either entirely to one of shares, yes or no. And if it is listed on CoinMarketCap, folks who carry a long token or a yes token will be able to redeem that yes token for 1 ETH. And people who carry a short token will be able to will basically not be able to redeem it for any ETH. And so in that sense, a yes/no market is always represented as like 2 shares, and one of which at the end will be redeemable for some amount of for 1 ETH. And that's a yes/no market. I'll keep using yes/no markets as the example because I could go into scalar markets, but I don't think I want to talk about that yet. No. But so basically, a position in one of those markets is just you have 2 balances. You have your long balance and your short balance. And so because it's ERC20 tokens, we can use 0x to trade on those. We can use 0x to basically move around those tokens and express orders for those tokens off chain. So what we do is we you say, okay, I want to go long. I think Grin will be listed on CoinMarketCap by March 16th. And you make an order that says, I will pay ETH. I will pay basically wrapped ETH, and I will get long tokens. And anyone who wants to take the other side can make an order they can basically sell me long tokens for ETH. And then we will go and fill that order if orders match. But there are complicating factors because of the way.
Keep going.
Yeah. So the other thing to know about these ERC20 tokens that represent Augur shares is that there are equal numbers of long and short shares at all points. So in an Augur market, there might be 100 shares outstanding, meaning that there are 100 long shares and 100 short shares and 100 ETH escrowed in the Augur market. So there's 100 ETH that can be redeemed at the end of the market. And the sum basically, I'm trying to think of the easiest way of describing this mechanism, but your long and short shares are always going to basically one long share and one short share are always redeemable for exactly 1 ETH. So that's called a complete set. And what that allows you to do is basically match orders that are buys for short tokens and buys for long tokens, and add liquidity without actually anybody selling tokens. And that's sort of the key. That's sort of the key thing about the Veil relayer and what sort of separates it from a normal 0x relayer. We're not just letting people buy and sell these 2 tokens. We are also matching orders that are across those order books. So it's possible for an order on the long order book to actually match an order on the short order book, and vice versa, because of the way that the shares are basically together 1 ETH. So you can match orders that way.
Yeah. Let's stop there for right now. There's one question: can position be represented by NFT tokens? No, not really. A lot of these positions, I mean, it's really important that shares in outcomes are fungible. And so I think the important thing to know is that, as Graham was saying, there are like long and short positions, which is equivalent to yes and no in these prediction markets. They do have this special quality where you can share liquidity across order books. But beyond that, they are, and from a programming perspective, the same as any other ERC20 token. What other, I guess.
I mean, you could hypothetically create an NFT that is redeemable for a certain number of shares in a market, but yeah, they're fungible tokens. They are, you can split them up into many, many different parts.
Yeah. What other questions are there out there? I feel like we've been talking a lot, and I think it would be helpful just to level set and make sure everyone's on the same page, or answer questions where there are them.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay, so I have a question. I guess briefly, for the order matching, did you guys like write your own contract that like wraps the 0x protocol and the Augur trading system? Or is that totally done like through like a sequence of different function calls?
Yeah, that's a good question. The answer is sort of. We started out actually without any of our own contracts, and using we execute orders entirely using 0x. We make a 0x call, and the it's just like a normal 0x call. So we don't have a custom contract that's actually executing trades. We do, however, have custom share contracts, and the only thing you need to know about the custom share contracts is that they are pre-approved for trading on 0x. One of the things that we decided early on was that we really didn't like the flow of locking and unlocking tokens. And we preferred to just basically create our own tokens that are always unlocked for trading on 0x. So we have a few contracts that behave very much like WETH. We have one contract that behaves very much like WETH, and it's called Veil Ether, and it's wrapped ETH, but it is pre-approved for trading. And then we have, for each market, a wrapped version of the Augur shares, the official Augur ERC20s that are created on an Augur market. We wrap those shares in another contract, and those will let you trade without actually issuing an approval. So those are the only special smart contracts that we actually have. Other than that, it's all pretty much vanilla 0x, and we use like a batch fill method to actually execute orders.
Yeah. So I just looking at the comments here. One of the questions was just about the share system again. I posted a link to a blog post that we wrote recently that has some more background information on the sort of special qualities of Augur or Veil shares. The important thing is just that both a long and a short share together represent a neutral portfolio, meaning that in a binary market, there are only two outcomes in the world. And if you own both outcomes, you're guaranteed to make money. That's why, a collection of both shares is interchangeable. But if you want a little bit more information on how binary or yes/no markets work or scalar markets work, read the post that I just shared in the chat. Another question is there any other way to lock tokens besides using an escrow? Potentially. I mean, the escrow right now, all of that is sort of an Augur concept. So again, you're just sending money to a contract, and then in exchange for that, receiving sort of a neutral portfolio of shares or a complete set of shares. And that's what you can trade. And because you have that escrowed money, that's what gives those shares value. You could theoretically have a version of things where you have you allow people not to post full collateral, but that's, I think, a more complicated thing. Do you have any suggestion of resources to learn more about the dynamics and principles of trading? Do you mean, just for clarification on that question, do you mean the principles of trading sort of as a user on something like Veil, or the implementation of trading? Edson, you can either respond in the chat or just...
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so mainly my question is because from my point, I really can understand the technical things. However, how market works and, dynamics and what kind of products can we develop, it's not very clear for me because I don't have a background in trading. However, yeah, do you have any suggestion?
I think two things. I think one, for things that are very specific to Veil. So Veil is a little bit special in that we support, this variety of like sort of exotic new markets where trading is still, it's a little bit different from maybe other decentralized exchanges. I think if you're looking for normal decentralized exchange trading, I think I can look for a link and maybe follow up here, but I remember the Ocean, which is another DEX, has some good resources on market making and how to set up programmatic trading strategies. And I think some good background information, but also the guide to Augur Market Economics that I posted in the chat as well has, I think, some introductory concepts there as well, at least for, again, what long and short, yes, no, all these concepts mean for Veil and sort of our derivatives.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, yeah, of course. Let's see. Does Veil attempt to take on any risk, or is it always guaranteed to always just cross off orders against each other?
Yeah, so we do not take any. We basically only match orders that are guaranteed to that either match because one person is selling the same tokens that another person is buying for the right amount of money, or we execute orders when we can go and buy a complete set for 1 ETH and then sell the long token to one person and the short token to another person for exactly 1 ETH. So in that sense, whenever we're executing trades, we're not changing the actual position of Veil in the market. We never take positions in markets. And in that sense, we don't take on position risk as we execute trades because they're all done in batches like that. But I will add that at the end of a market, we do allow people to redeem their shares for the payout value of those shares. So in the example of the Grin market on March 16th, if it's listed on March 16th, we can immediately allow people to sell their shares to us for basically what those shares will be worth in a few weeks when the Augur market actually settles. And in that, that's not really 0x related, so I don't need to go into that much. But in that case, we actually do take on some risk because there's a risk of the Augur market not resolving in the way that we think it will resolve. But
let's actually, just for the sake of clarity, do people generally understand the sharing liquidity between long and short order books, or would it be helpful for us to go over that one more time because it's a pretty core concept? Cool. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a very practical example, and let's go back to Graham's example of the Grin token. Grin is a Mimblewimble blockchain, new blockchain with a new token that launched actually the same day that Veil launched last week. So the question is, will this token be listed on CoinMarketCap? So there are two versions of the world, or two possible outcomes to this question. Either yes, it will be listed, or no, it will not be listed. So in Augur, that represents two outcome tokens. One is a yes token, one is a no token. So we can kind of create an order book just for yes tokens, where there are bids and asks just for yes, and that will have some price. Let's say that people think there's a 50% chance of it actually happening. So the price that people are buying and selling yes tokens is around 0.5 ETH per token, or 50% per token.
Because that's the expected value of one long token.
Right. Or one yes token, one long token. And then separately, we have another order book that is for the short or no tokens. And there are, again, more bids and asks on that order book. And again, let's say people think there's around a 50% chance of that not happening. And therefore, the price that is trading at is around 0.5 ETH. Again, 50%, or the expected value of each of those shares. So if you think about these two separate order books, one has a bunch of bids and asks for yes at 0.5, and one has a bunch of bids and asks for no at 0.5. But what you can notice is that if you buy one for 0.5 and the other at 0.5, really you're betting on the same thing. And it is hard.
Yeah, it's hard to take this jump.
But basically, what you can say is that a buy for no at 0.5 is matchable with a buy for yes at 0.5.
It's a little easier with maybe 0.6.
Yeah, but let's do this, because what you can do is you can take those two orders and combine them together and say both these people are committing to trade at the same price, or at the same level between yes and no, and therefore even if they don't have tokens already, the matching engine can go create a neutral portfolio of shares, one long and one yes, and give them, or one long and one short, and give them to these two traders at the prices they asked for. And that is unique to Augur, or unique to sort of our order books, because the yes and no tokens have this sort of complementary relationship.
So that what that means is that a buy order at, like you said, 0.5 for short tokens in the short or no token order book actually is matchable with a buy order for yes tokens for 0.5 ETH also.
Or a sell order for 0.5 ETH for the short.
Yeah. So if we have a buy order for one no share for 0.5 ETH, we can either wait for a sell order for that same no token, or we can wait for a buy order for the long token and fill it with that. So either of those two orders will match, which means that we can basically take those two order books, the one order book for yes and the one order book for no, and actually make them the same. They end up being completely mirror images of each other because orders are matchable on either order book.
Yeah. You can look at this. If you want more practical examples, just go to Veil. Again, I'll put a link there, but it's app.veil.co, and look at some of any of the markets there, and you'll see that there's just one order book. Let's go on to other questions, and if there, again, it's going to take a while to understand these things, and unfortunately, we don't have a guide online right now for going through all this stuff, but that's one thing that is in the works, and we'll have a blog post eventually about it. But anyway, let's see. Who creates and chooses Augur markets to be represented on Veil? Yeah, so right now we choose all of the ones that get created. That's a short-term thing. I think Augur is really, really exciting as a protocol and as a platform because it lets anyone create these markets. And I think, there's going to be a lot of like creativity and a lot of innovation that comes from like community created markets, things that like we would never have thought of before. In the short term though, as we bring Veil, to life and off the ground, we're really focused on making sure that like the experience is good, that all of the infrastructure of the platform works well, and so we're limiting the platform just to a few markets that we support, and we choose those things. So those are, again, you can go look at the actual product to get a sense for what those are, but loosely it's in the realm of like cryptocurrency derivatives and prediction markets. But look for announcements soon where we'll be sort of opening up Veil more broadly. There's also, for what it's worth, there is a way where anyone can go and nominate an Augur market for listing on Veil. It's just app.veil.co/nominate. And there you can go and add an Augur market ID and sort of submit it for listing. And we've been reviewing those submissions over the last week.
Actually, Michael asked a good question back on the like actual order execution stuff. He asked if we call any fill order functions on Augur, because Augur itself has an order book. We actually don't use the Augur order book at all. So there are no times where the Veil matching engine is actually calling Augur's order book. So on Augur, if you go and you look at one of Veil's markets, it looks as though there have been no orders at all, because all of the complete sets that we've purchased have been traded totally through 0x and not through Augur. So the answer to that question is no, we do not call the fill order method on Augur.
I was answering this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So in the example of so Sam asks, looks like the rep market is locked right now. The best long and short orders add up to more than 1.0. So in that, it looks like in that case there is a long order for 0.56. So somebody is willing to buy. Let me see. So the reason that orders add up to more than one is actually because they don't match. There is a spread in the middle that you would have to cross in order to execute an order. And are you going to send a screenshot of the? We can send a picture of the depth chart. Or,
you can also, so yeah, for background again, we have two trading UIs. One is more like a normal exchange where the order book is sort of visualized. And then there's the maybe more summarized like consumer version of it. It may be easier to visualize the order book and the spread if you look at the last link that I sent, which is for sort of the more professional product.
Yeah, so there it's, and the reason for that is it's like if I could buy a long token for 0.6 or I could buy a short token for 0.5, those actually don't match. Like if somebody willing to take the opposite side on those, there's really only 0.9 ETH available to buy one complete set. So you wouldn't be able to just go buy a complete set and fill both of those orders.
Let's see. So in Veil markets, someone or you guys will first buy a complete set for there to be any shares in the market. Is this correct? We do. So the answer is two-part. One, we do buy complete sets initially so that we can basically match orders immediately. But we can also match to orders that are just buy orders. Like if, for instance, we agree to both, maybe I want to buy long for 0.6 and Graham wants to buy short for 0.4. That represents a complete set of shares. And so then Veil's matching engine will go and create that set of shares as part of matching our orders.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, we do, again, to summarize, we do buy them early on to make it fast, but if we don't have them available, all that means there's an extra callback where we go and buy the shares first before filling or matching the orders. All right, what is the difference between trading short and long positions on Augur with DYDX? Is it possible to have a leverage on trading with Augur? Yeah, so there's two DYDX. I assume people are familiar with the protocol, but it's a derivatives and margin protocol on Ethereum. And the difference with Augur and DYDX is that Augur is what's called synthetic, and DYDX is physically settled. So what those mean, those sort of trading terms, but Augur, and a good example is that we have a Bitcoin derivative that is represented on Ethereum, on Veil. And the way that we're able to do that is when an Augur market resolves or expires, the money that's paid out is still Ether, even if the amount that's paid out is dependent on the price of Bitcoin. So this is what we call synthetic, where we trade on the price of something else without actually delivering that something else when the trade is done. The flip side is DYDX. Everything is physically settled, meaning that you can, if we had a derivative on REP or on the ZRX token, that option or that futures contract on DYDX would deliver that actual token, ZRX or REP, when it expired, instead of being synthetic. So DYDX is nice in that respect, and Augur is great though for flexibility and basically using the same framework for trading on anything. So you can actually, and this is a good example of this, is our hash rate derivatives. So the hash rate is not a price, obviously. It's just a data point. But you can create markets that let you speculate on the hash rate because this is a synthetic market and you can't like deliver the hash rate to someone. It's just that you get paid out more if the hash rate increases and you get paid out less if the hash rate decreases.
And the answer for whether you can have a leverage on trading in Augur is yes, because you can basically, and this sort of requires a little bit of an understanding of how scalar markets on Augur work, which I'll try not to go into, but you can basically have a payout that increases more than linearly with the increase of price of the underlying asset. So we have markets that are at 5x leverage, and that means that when the price of REP goes up by X, the price of a share in that market will go up by 5x, at least
the long share.
The price of the long share in that market will go up by 5x, assuming that the price was at 50% in the middle. Obviously, as you get close to the bounds of a market, leverage changes a little bit. But we try to keep the price in the middle of the markets as we create them. And in that way, we do provide leverage.
Okay, if we have time, let's see. If we have time, could we go over V-share redemptions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want?
Yeah, sure. I can start. Yeah. So, as
wait, just to clarify, are you talking about redemptions at the end of a market or redemptions for Augur shares?
So I wrapped my Augur shares in your V-share contract with the factory.
Yep.
Then now I'm wondering, do I just call this claim trading proceeds function on Augur to allow everybody to redeem like their winnings, or is there like some other way to do it?
Oh, wait. So sorry, you bought shares on Veil and then you.
No. I used your Augur factory contract. I created a market and wrapped those outcome shares in V shares.
Mm.
And now I'm wondering at the end of the market when it's like it's for settlement.
Yep.
How do you guys like distribute the winnings
Yeah.
or settle the shares?
Sure. Yeah. There's two ways. So if that market is on Veil and it's one of our supported markets, we will basically create a buy order on 0x for both sides of that market, both long and short shares, at the price that we think it will be resolved at. So let's go back to the Grin on CoinMarketCap example. If Grin is on CoinMarketCap, then we think every long share in that market will be worth 1 Ether, and every short share will be worth 0 Ether. So what we'll do is we will offer to buy everyone's V shares, because everything on Veil is this Veil or virtual Augur share. We will offer to buy everyone's long V shares for 1 and everyone's short V shares for 0. At the same time, and that happens immediately. Augur, what happens with Augur is like a Oracle protocol, and so there's a process that happens every week where once the initial outcome is reported, there's a week dispute period where anyone who holds rep can go and pay to dispute that initial report. And so someone might go and say, actually, Grin is not on CoinMarketCap, so I'm going to pay to say the outcome is not 1 and 0, but 0 and 1. And then there's a whole, you should read, if you're interested in that process, you should read the Augur white paper. I don't want to take up time here, but there's basically a whole process, an economy around Augur working as sort of a truth engine and then coming up with the finalization of that market, which is really what the rep community thinks the long share should be worth and what the short share should be worth. And at that point, you can then go, either you can fill the Veil order and get paid what we think it should be, or you can just withdraw your Augur share from the V share and then go and redeem it directly with the Augur smart contract. But what has to happen first is that Augur has to finalize that market. Does that sort of make sense?
So I would withdraw my Augur shares from V share and then go and redeem it.
Correct.
If you wanted to use Augur to redeem your shares, yes, that's what you would do. Yeah. But it's also an option to redeem your shares on Veil directly, and you can redeem V shares for Veil ETH.
And you guys take a fee for that, correct?
We do, yeah, we do.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Augur, worth noting, Augur also, the market creator also takes a fee on Augur when you go and claim your trading proceeds at the end. That's what there's both a market creator fee and then also a reporting fee that's taken out of the taken out of your ETH every time you claim trading proceeds.
But the fee, the reason we take a fee there is, one, to basically pay the market creator fee when we ultimately redeem the shares that we bought from you in Augur. And then two, it's just a matter of sort of time value of money. You're choosing between getting your money immediately versus waiting, 2 weeks or so for the Augur market to finalize.
Yep.
Let's see. So only point of
that literally is the only point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish that WETH had that built in. The only difference is just one method that's called deposit and approve. So instead of just deposit, you call deposit and approve, and it does both things in one step. So you just need to deposit your ETH into WETH instead of needing to deposit your ETH into WETH and then also unlock it. And that's the only difference. It would be nice actually if WETH had that method. Like we would use WETH in that case, but we don't.
Yep. Yep.
We're closing up on 45 minutes here. Really appreciate Paul and Graham, both of your guys' time. This has been awesome. I guess just one last question here would be, what are some of the best ways that these participants could integrate Veil into their hackathon projects?
Yeah. So technically Veil does have an API. So if you're interested in making a market maker on Veil, or just any sort of programmatic trading strategy, I would recommend checking that out. And it might also help you understand sort of the mechanics of our order matching service as well. I'll drop a link in the chat to the API docs in a second. Yeah, we also have a TypeScript library called Veil.js that sort of wraps a bunch of that. So if you are using TypeScript or JavaScript, it makes it super easy to integrate. I think also, like right now, we don't have market creation live on Veil. That's something we're going to be supporting soon. But I think if you have questions throughout the hackathon about maybe like Augur specific things as well, we're more than happy to answer those. And we can provide like our links to our Veil Discord or Twitter or GitHub or whatever for answering those. And let's see. Yeah, I think just try out Veil, and like this is like I can't stress how early this is. Like we really just launched this on mainnet a week ago, and started the company last August. So all of this has come together relatively quickly. But I guess just use us as resources for like ideas, or we always love hearing feedback about the product. There's so many things that we can improve, especially around education, because we understand these are really like new and sort of exotic concepts that are hard to initially wrap your head around. But I think once you understand, we didn't get to scale our markets at all on this call, but I think like these are really cool, exciting new primitives that we can use to create a lot of new markets and new financial products. And I think as much as we can help sort of evangelize, the Augur and Veil, like we want to do that. So yeah, just use it as a resource. We'll like post contact information in the chat shortly.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This
I
really
really appreciate
awesome.
your time.
For sure. Yeah.
Sorry we don't quite have the explanation of all the stuff down to a T, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks guys.
Cool. All right. See you later.
Bye. Thanks everyone.